Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are tuning in. You are welcome. Welcome to another edition of Mamlakak Broadcast Network, affectionately called it MBNK News. Well, I am your host for today. We have a power pack guest today who is going to debunk on this topic, MK Ultra. Well, are you ready for the truth? Let me first ask that. Are you truly ready to take that step to know and see the world's largest human trafficking, child sex trafficking, drug trafficker, terrorism, sponsors, and arms dealer? How is this all being paid for the century? Do you really know how those things have been paid for the century? Let me give you a hint. Just another day, a sanction was put on U.S. aid. U.S. aid is the most corrupt and criminal organization operating within the confines of the federal government or global scale. You could do your own research. Don't take my word for granted. So you do your own research and you will draw your own conclusion, and you will see that what I'm saying is true. And you will better understand why the sanction that was passed on them. Once you are awakened, you will realize that the most of America's problems were deliberately created by our own government. I know some of you may say that's conspiracy theory. Well, I hate to tell you, conspiracy theory was labeled by the CIA in order to conceal the truth and silencing whistleblowers who dare to tell the truth, to harm the truth. This ugly tactic is used to keep the public in the dark and unaware of what is truly going on behind the scene. That being said, prior to me to give the floor to our guest today, allow me to tell you in few words who she is. And I'm certain she can correct me on that or add more to my description. Cathy O'Brien is an absolute vision of strength and brilliance of mind, body, and soul. She went through a lot in her life. And I'm pretty sure maybe she may touch just a part of it today. Yet her resilient mind is real proof that we can overcome whatsoever the enemy throws at us. Cathy is a whistleblower for plus 35 years now, who dedicates her life to empower humanity to peacefully reclaim their inherent right to free thought in light of truth. She's a survivor of CIA MK Ultra Project Monarch Mind Control Operation, which was a US government mind control. She is an author of the book Transformation of America. If my producer also could highlight that book there for the people to see. I'm trying to put it this way. I don't know whether you could see it better. Just thank you very much, producer. She is the author of the book that is actually not shown on the screen, Transformation of America, which dives deep on the topic. You can get your copy even today on Amazon. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one and only one, Cathy O'Brien.
Thank you. That's so sweet. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, Cathy. This is so beautiful. It's something we've been praying for a long period of time. And for you to accept to come on our platform, I just say this is a answer of a prayer.
It's an amazing time to have voice, and I appreciate having voice here today because people are waking up and wondering what in the world is going on. They're seeing all this corruption. They're seeing child sex trafficking. They're seeing satanic ritual abuse right in front of their faces. And they're wondering what in the world is going on. Well, what we're seeing today isn't new. What's new is that we're seeing it. And I'm so happy that people are seeing it because awareness is the first step towards positive, necessary change. This is an amazing time to be alive. And I've waited a lifetime for people to reach this point of being ready to embrace the reality of what has been imposed on humanity for generations now. And that's mind control. Knowledge is our defense against mind control. When we understand the components of it, when it's imposed on us, we just don't cooperate with it anymore. Repetition is the most basic form of mind control. I think the whole global population experienced that 2020 when mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population in order to usher in what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, Joe Biden, and a handful of self-appointed, self-anointed leaders term the New World Order. That is a slave society agenda that has been going on since Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany was when we had World War II, we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the U.S. in the wake of World War II through Project Paperclip. I encourage everyone to read up on that for themselves, because when we imported those Nazi and fascist scientists, with them came the formula for mind control. And that formula is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a classroom, a military, or the world. Trauma is the basis of it. It had been found through the Hitler-Himmler research that there's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while their brain is still forming. The pedophile agenda that's being pushed today is a mind control agenda. When we add the transgender aspect to it, that mind control agenda includes a depopulation agenda to stop us from having our wonderful family units in human procreation. These are things I was exposed to in my tenure as an MK Ultra mind control slave. I was used on a White House, Pentagon level, and I was deep in the swamp among these perpetrators who steal elections and fund their agenda with drug and human trafficking across open borders, and who use mind control to usher their slave society agenda in. They know that people would never cooperate with the sexualization of our children and the satanic cabal aspect that has been pushed on society for so long, nor would we cooperate with the depopulation agenda such as was imposed 2020 with the so-called virus, the pandemic that hit the world. So as a survivor and having been in the swamp among these perpetrators, I can assure everyone that these perpetrators are not like us, and they do not like us. They're a very dark, low vibration, negative energy force that we share this planet with. We have to realize that we do share this planet with this horrific people who will traffic our children and annihilate our population. Like I said, they're not like us and they do not like us. Their low vibration cannot reach the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. They can't touch it. The only thing that they can do is stop us from thinking to express it. That's why they use mind control. Ultimately, the mind control agenda is a spiritual warfare. I know that from my experience in MK Ultra Mind Control, that without free thought, there's no free will. With no free will, there's no soul expression. When we don't have our soul expression, we don't have our moral compass. We don't have our compassion for each other. We don't have the ability to gather that strength of the human spirit, our life's purpose and why we're here, and that infinite power of love that is innate to us all. So that's why mind control is used, is to stop us from being able to think, to express that. Because when we tap into that, we're unstoppable by design. Their darkness can't creep in on our light. So they try to keep our light dim with trauma after trauma after trauma, and with the sexualization of children. I know this from personal experience because I was born into a multi-generational incest-based family. My father had been sexually and ritually abused. My mother had been sexually abused and was being trafficked to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. Those horrific abuses they experienced, they were passing on down to me. And my father's sexual abuse of me began in infancy, before I could even think to know what he was doing was wrong. But my brain knew it was wrong. This important mind-brain function is something that we all need to understand in order to understand how mind control works. Whenever our brains experience trauma, it's like our conscious mind freezes in fright and leaves our subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and manipulated. This is also defined as the mind's sane defense to trauma, too horrible to comprehend. Our brain has this amazing defense mechanism in it where it actually physically shuts down neuron pathways around the traumatic event, around that memory, and represses it deep into the subconscious. This is how our brains just respond to trauma, so the rest of the mind can function and develop normally. This is a normal brain response that once we understand it, we're able to deal with that trauma later, again and again as needed. It's just a completely different way of understanding our brains. But once we understand it, we can safeguard ourselves against the shutting down of neuron pathways. My father's sexual abuse extended into child pornography of me. More neuron pathways in my brain shut down. He started trafficking me to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge while I was a little bitty toddler. More neuron pathways in my brain shut down. As these neuron pathways shut down, that makes a person lose their ability for conscious free thought and leaves the subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and manipulated. Without a conscious mind filter, we just take information in without critically analyzing it, questioning it, or creatively being able to apply any information. So it's just information, just dump it into our brains. This is what mind control is about. And since the neuron pathways in my brain were shut down, plus I was multi-generationally abused, I was a target for the CIA's MK Ultra Mind Control project. When my father was caught sending child pornography of me through the U.S. mails back around 1960 in Muskegon, Michigan, he was approached by a local politician that I'd been prostituted to at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. This local politician told my father that he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would sell me into the CIA's MKUltra mind control project. My father did that. And I think it's important for all of us to know how long our justice system has been corrupted to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia. National security was invoked on the case, and my father went free. He was able to continue abusing. Not only that, he was given lucrative military contracts for selling me into the CIA's MKUltra Project Monarch. Monarch is the generational, multi-generational genetic aspect of MKUltra mind control. This local politician that I had been trafficked to since a little bitty toddler was Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford went on to become the unelected president of the United States. As his political career escalated, so too did my victimization in MKUltra mind control. That's how I came to be used on a White House Pentagon level and be among these perpetrators.
Wow.
Excuse me. And it's interesting to note when we look at Gerald Ford's cabinet that he had so many of the same perpetrators who have been ushering in this globalist agenda for so long. He had George Bush to head the CIA. He had Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld. Donald Rumsfeld's the one who gave us aspartame, that artificial sweetener that shuts down the critical analysis part of our brain and dumbs us down. He had Henry Kissinger, who he started one of the first depopulation agendas with. Anybody can research that for themselves. And he had Nelson Rockefeller, and he had the head of the Motion Picture Association of America, Jack Valenti, as his press secretary. Jack Valenti is the one who gave us the term conspiracy theory for anyone who questions the media narrative. That came in the wake of the Kennedy assassination, when Gerald Ford headed the Warren Commission and gave us the one bullet theory and diverted people away from the reality that that is when this globalist new world order agenda took over. We'll notice too, in the wake of the Kennedy assassination, is when the electronic voting machines came into being. These electronic voting machines have been rigged since their inception to place key people in high positions of power and influence so that this globalist agenda could start taking over worldwide. They're taking over our national sovereignty in every country in the world for their globalist agenda, and that slave society agenda. Follow the money, and it goes to the same handful of puppet masters every time. Big pharma, big tech, big government, big cult religion. They've all led us outside ourselves for generations now, so that we would forget that we have all the power. It's within us all. We all forgot. And this is such an important time now, as people are waking up to embrace the truth, that they remember who they are and why they are here. When we remember who we are and why we are here, we start living our life's purpose. We tap into that infinite strength of the human spirit and that infinite power of love. We align with the divine and we live purpose. It's where humanity unites. That's how we unite globally, is with love and our nature. That makes more sense than an imposed slave society agenda that's being used with trauma after trauma after trauma, and the sexualization of our children. The sexualization of our children, this pedophile agenda, is also a blackmail operation. And it's one that's been in full swing my whole life. Because once my father sold me into MKUltra mind control, I was taken to the Epstein Island of its time, Mackinac Island, Michigan. It's where the governor's mansion was located, and where these global puppet masters, these perpetrators, would meet and discuss how they could infiltrate the societies around the world in order to gain control over the minds of the masses. They were going to infiltrate the education system through global education, which is now called Common Core. People see the indoctrination of children. Indoctrination teaches children what to think rather than how to think. And it's being used to manipulate their knowledge base. Mind control is a sliding scale from the kind of torturous, robotic MK Ultra mind control I experienced to information control. Because we all formulate our thoughts, our opinions, and ultimately our actions based on what we know. And we need to know that knowledge base has been deliberately altered for a long, long time. And it's been established through these secret meetings. And they're still meeting in secret. These global elite and their secret meetings that we're not allowed to attend while they decide our fate? I don't think so. We just need to stop cooperating with these leaders that we didn't elect. You know, it's up to us to gather our strength of spirit and our own power and refuse to cooperate with their agenda anymore. Because when we have our free thought, free will, soul expression, when we align with the divine, it's game over. We win, they lose. We take back our personal and national sovereignty. We are able to effectively protect our children going forward and to stop this horrific agenda that's being imposed on us all. We've got an opportunity right now. We elected a president in 2016 when so many of us were awake and aware to what in the world was going on, that we overrode the rigged electronic algorithm and the voting machine by sheer numbers of us. And we were able to elect a president who wasn't Hillary Clinton and her New World Order. We were able to elect a president who represented we the people and showed us that there was a swamp in Washington, D.C., being funded by drug and human trafficking across open borders, that the child sex trafficking was a pedophile mind control agenda that was also a blackmail operation used to compromise politicians and judges. We learned about Epstein Island and the videotapes, Epstein Island, and I want to know not so much who went to Epstein Island as who is holding those blackmail tapes. For what purpose? Why were they gathered? Why were those blackmail tapes gathered at Mackinac Island, Michigan when I was a child and used in them? Why were those blackmail tapes being videoed, taped at Bohemian Grove when these global leaders would meet? It's because these perpetrators don't trust each other either. They hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak. And who these puppet masters are at the top that are holding these blackmail tapes is who we need to identify. And again, all we need to do is follow the money. And it goes to the same perpetrators over and over again. Just as I named the perpetrators in Gerald Ford's cabinet, the same ones, over and over and over. It's just a handful of them trying to appear like there are more of them than they really are, because that makes people feel like they're the majority and we're not. The fact is we are by far the majority. We showed it 2016. They freaked out so bad 2020 they had to blatantly steal the election right in front of all of us while we sheltered at home, hiding behind our masks. Imposing mind control masks as a virus. Masks are used in MK Ultra mind control. My own daughter was trafficked in a mask. We look at MK Ultra mind control slave Michael Jackson, who is part of the same MK Ultra Project Monarch that I was, and he was trafficked in a mask. We saw him wearing that mask. Masks are used because they depersonalize. They make us feel like we don't have a voice. They inhibit oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis-free thought. That's why mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population 2020, because they needed to make up for lost time. They were panicked. They were freaked out that we were able to elect a president in 2016. The thing is, people were so used to looking outside themselves and relying on big government that people forgot to do their part. You can't drain a swamp from the top down by one person. It takes all of us to drain that swamp from the bottom up. Well, we know that now. We're ready. We're ready to do our part. And people are ready to take back their freedom and do whatever it takes in their communities right now. Because when we elected President Trump again 2024 by just such a massive, massive victory, this new world order, these global perpetrators threw up their arms and said, okay, that's the end of the new world order, because they knew President Trump will not cooperate with their agenda. He has opposed their agenda all along. These perpetrators that I was around under their MK Ultra mind control on a White House Pentagon level, I know they feared President Trump all the way back in the mid-1980s, because they couldn't buy him off. They couldn't compromise him. They couldn't blackmail him. And he was adamantly opposed MK Ultra mind control. He had the knowledge that is our defense against it, and he refused to cooperate with it. So we have a wonderful opportunity in front of us right now, but it's up to each and every one of us. Our freedom has been given back. We need to know how to reclaim it and retain it going forward. Understanding the formula for mind control is key, because again, knowledge is our defense against mind control, and awareness is the first step towards positive, necessary change. So, do we have questions at this point, or should we talk about the healing aspect?
Wow, Cathy, my goodness. I just love the way you came in and just lay out the topic, even to a lay person, to better understand what is MK Ultra and mind controlling, and using your own life that quote unquote as an experiment for all those. It's just mind blowing how you survive all
Yes.
those atrocity. I mean, it's just, I don't know how you managed to survive all that you went through with those high ranking people in our government.
I feel so divinely blessed. I'm so fortunate to have survived and healed. I'm fortunate that intelligence insider Mark Phillips, who is working the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences to preserve the sanctity of free thought, saw what was going on. He saw how this globalist agenda was creeping in on our government, how blackmail operations were being used to allow for it to happen, how elections were being stolen, how people like myself, innocent citizens, were being targeted for MK Ultra mind control. And he was livid when he saw little children being taken in and out of the White House. He decided he was going to have to do something about it. Mark was bound by laws of sedition since he worked in intelligence, so he couldn't speak about it, but he decided he would take action. Mark was so high ranking in intelligence that he could wear any hat. He could wear CIA, FBI, NSA, Secret Service, whatever he needed to be. And it put him in key places to see what was really going on. And he saw what was happening with my daughter Kelly and me. And he lifted us right out of the Washington, D.C. human trafficking swamp all the way back in 1988. And he handed me keys to my own mind. Mark was not the only one in intelligence. There were many good people in government and intelligence who were horrified at what was being done to erode our constitutional values of freedom and justice for all. They were disgusted with what was being done with the sexualization of children for mind control purposes. We had people like William von Raab, who was head of U.S. Customs, who saw the drug and human trafficking across open borders. And every time he tried to make an arrest and stop these crimes against humanity, national security was invoked and no justice was served. And he did everything he could to alert the American people, but the media was already so controlled and censored by then that even his voice was censored. There were many people who tried to make a positive difference back then, and they all aligned and decided the best way they could do it is just to wake people up and show them what in the world is going on. People needed to be armed with the knowledge that is our defense against mind control. It is truth that makes us free. It's imperative that people understand it. Mark decided to hand me keys to my own mind and help me heal so that we could begin telling humanity what in the world is going on with mind control. Mark did not deprogram me. He reminded me that it's within us all to heal. No matter what life puts in front of us, we have been blessed with a resiliency of body, mind, and spirit. We just need to remember that we have this resiliency. It is within us all to heal. It's absolutely phenomenal what we're capable of when we align with the divine and remember that we have been blessed with the healing capability all along. Mark knew this, and he reminded me. When Mark first lifted my daughter and me out of the swamp, I didn't even know good people existed in the world anymore. I didn't know that could even be. And yet my brain knew. Just like my brain knew that what my father was doing was wrong when I was an infant, my brain knew that I was safe with Mark and that my daughter was safe for the first time. It was an amazing experience to even have. And the neuron pathways in my brain that had shut down began to open up. Because when people are safe, when they're not being bombarded with trauma after trauma, when they feel secure in the sanctity of life, the way it's intended to be lived, those neuron pathways in our brains naturally open up. And it's happening for humanity right now. Those neuron pathways are opening up, and we're beginning to remember and wonder why this has gone on for so long. It's because we were being blindsided by mind control, just like I was throughout my MK Ultra mind control victimization. But now that I was safe, the memory began leaking. And Mark told me, the pen is mightier than the sword. Pick up a pen and paper. Because when we move a pen, the very act of moving a pen actually opens neuron pathways in our brain. It uses the critical analysis logic part of our brain to move a pen. So if we write out this memory, these traumas, these fears, whatever it is immobilizing us, it shifts it over to logic, to the critical analysis part of the brain, where it's written out on paper and consciously seen. And all of a sudden, these neuron pathways are opening up. And we're healing psychiatrically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, everything all at once with this one simple brain hack, this one simple trick of picking up a pen and paper. Typing on a keyboard does not do the same thing. That's why our children are being taught on these devices. It's because it's part of their indoctrination. If we put writing by hand back into the school system, that alone can stop the indoctrination of our children. If we are feeling immobilized by what's going on and we're confused with what's going on in the world, pick up a pen and paper, write it out. Write out whatever it is that your fear is, whatever the trauma is, and then add a solution. Because Mark taught me that too. He said, voice no negatives without a solution. And I spell solution with a S-O-U-L. That's a solution. Because if we have to think in terms of a solution, that causes more neuron pathways in our brain to open up. Mind control needs them to shut down. We need them to open up. Then we add that solution and our brain starts firing in new ways. And it lifts us out of that darkness. It lifts us out of the trauma. It lifts us above the storm, so to speak, so that we get a clear view forward, so that we can see what in the world we can do to start making a positive difference. And then after we've written that out and written this solution, shut off our devices, shut off that noise, and get out in nature. Breathe in the air. Listen to nature. Feel the earth under our feet. Reassociate, reground into the present, into reality, into the moment. And then get out in our local communities. Talk to each other, eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul again. This is how we all effectively take back our minds, our lives, our community, how we reestablish justice, how we can get our hands in the earth and grow our own nutritious food again. Because another component of mind control is food deprivation. If we starve our brains aren't firing properly. They don't have the ability for clarity of thought when we're starving ourselves. That's why our food has been genetically altered and bioengineered and modified like it has. It's to starve our brains of nutrition. We have got to get nutrition back in our bodies. And that was one thing that Mark knew right away. How fortunate for me that he was a gourmet chef on top of everything else, and was feeding my brain. And my daughter and I both, we began a healthy diet of being able to reestablish our physical health, and it helps with the mental health. It's so important for all of us. So we learn to regrow our own food again and re-nourish the soil so that we can grow nutritious food. It's such an important part of moving forward that we all can do. I'm so fortunate that Mark was teaching me all these simple little steps. And I fell so in love with him. Why wouldn't I? I mean, he was so handsome. We were safe. He was loving. He was kind. His animals loved him. And that's another important thing for us to notice, is animals have really strong senses. Dogs know who to trust and who not to trust. And people, we have that within us too. We have those senses too. Because I had lost my free thought, my senses were heightened. And I had a strong sense of, just much like an animal did, of who is good and who was bad, the vibrational frequencies, telepathic communication, and ability to understand. And I saw that Mark's animals loved him. They trusted him. When he rescued my daughter and me, he also rescued our cows and horses and guineas and chickens and cats and dogs, because he knew that people who abuse children abuse animals and vice versa, as though they have no regard for life at all. And so when Mark did that, and then when I saw him with his own pets and saw how much they loved him and climbed all over him and trusted him, I sensed that I could trust Mark too. And that was how I began learning how to heal. That's how I began learning that, wow, I was really falling in love with Mark. Even after all I had been through and my life's experience, I had never had an experience like I was having with Mark. But Mark told me, he said, he wouldn't have anything to do with me. He said, in that regard, he said, you have to know who you are in order to have something to give in a relationship. You need to heal first. And that was powerful motivation for me to heal even faster. So I was really writing out those memories and doing all I could to reclaim my free thought, free will, soul expression. As I was reclaiming that and regaining that, I was realizing that as people told me, well, you have to love yourself, I realized that I told Mark, I said, how can I love myself after all I've been forced to do under mind control, the drug and human trafficking operations that I was forced to participate in, the horrible things, not even being able to protect my own daughter. How in the world was I going to be able to even live with myself, let alone love myself? And Mark told me then, he said, you're not responsible for what you're programmed to do under mind control. But now that you're aware, you are responsible for all your actions going forward. And I thought that was the most amazing thing, that I could choose to live true to soul, to live the love I am every single day going forward. And I wasn't responsible for what had happened. Mark told me, he said, no, you aren't responsible. Your abusers are responsible for that, and they need to be held accountable for their actions. I'm still waiting for them to be held accountable for their actions, just like all of us are waiting for these perpetrators who imposed this mind control mess as a virus on us all to be held accountable for their actions, because their depopulation agenda, when people got the injections, is absolutely horrific, and they need to be held accountable for that. We all need to see some justice, and we all need to understand that we are not responsible for what we did under mind control. We're not responsible for having messed up our children and had them get the injection. We're not responsible for that. Those perpetrators are, and they need to be held accountable. We need to forgive ourselves and move forward. We need to align with the divine, reclaim our free thought, free will, soul expression, and effectively protect our children going forward. Make wise choices by our own free will going forward. And that takes healing. Each and every one of us needs to use the methods that Mark taught me to heal. That's written in PTSD, Time to Heal. I've got it posted on my website at trance-formation.com so everyone can have it now. I posted it in 2020 when Mind Control Masters virus was unleashed on humanity, because I knew everyone everywhere would need to reclaim their free thought, free will, so that we could all be able to take a stand against this globalist slave society agenda that was being imposed. As I began healing more and more, daily affirmations just weren't helping me love myself. I couldn't find that ability anywhere. And finally, I looked so deep inside myself to find out who I am and why I'm here. I found myself at the base core energy of my being. And that energy, that strength of spirit, is love. It's the infinite power of love. It's where I align with the divine. It's that source of love that I decided, oh, I can live the love I am. That's so much easier than trying to love myself by some emotional definition. Instead, I just gather that strength of spirit and live the love I am. And with that, I was able to start living my life's purpose. After that, Mark and I fell very much in love, and we began speaking out. In 1990, my daughter Kelly had a medical issue that thrust her into the hospital. And from there, these perpetrators stepped in and took custody of my child, just like they do so many others. We need to get some laws in place to make it where they at least have to have a warrant or something, so so-called child protective services can't just be coming into our homes and taking our children. That's got to stop. This violation of justice that was happening in our court systems under national security has extended into the so-called child protective services. And it's up to us to realize that this system is so corrupt that we've got to get it cleaned up. But in the meantime, we need to protect our children going forward. I was doing everything I can, speaking out. That's how Mark and I became whistleblowers. It wasn't out of bitterness or hatred for my abusers. I don't give them, and that's their vibration. They feed off of low vibration energy. They feed off of fear and hatred and division. They feed off of all of that. And they weren't going to get any more of that from me. They got that the first 30 years of my life. I'm just going to live the love I am. And that vibration is so high, they can't touch me and they can't feed off it. So that's how I choose to deal with them. But it was love for my daughter that compelled me to speak out. And again, since love is the most powerful force in the universe, that gave me the strongest voice to be able to start making a difference for her and for all the other children that were being trafficked. Because again, like I said at the beginning, what we're seeing today isn't new. What's new is that we're finally seeing it. This has been going on my whole life. What's being done to the children with the Child Protective Services and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children was set up as a catch net operation. When children who are being trafficked were being found, they were being brought right back into the system through the so-called Child Protective Services. So we have a lot to learn. All that information on where these roots of corruption are planted and what we can do about them is in Access Denied for Reasons of National Security. That tells Mark's and my journey through the corrupted justice and mental health system to help my daughter, Kelly. Kelly was in that system right up until she was 18 years old. She had a compound felony of MK Ultra mind control, a little taste of freedom, and then being thrust back into their clutches through the corrupt system. So Kelly is now free of that system. She is freely living the love that she is. She's living her life's purpose and surrounded by animals and nature. And she's just an amazing example of the resiliency of the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. It's within us all. If she and I can heal, anybody can. Doesn't matter what life puts in our way. What happens to us is not who we are. Who we are is still right inside of us, aligned with the divine. So I encourage everyone to, look into further information, arm yourselves with the knowledge that's our defense against mind control. Look into Transformation of America. That is my testimony for Congress that was released in 1995. That Mark's friends in intelligence and law enforcement on the highest levels, every word in it was validated. That's why national security was invoked on it, because it's all true. And the National Security Act being invoked on it meant that I would never see justice through our corrupted justice system. But to me, conventional justice, of a judge banging his gavel is not the same as what I consider to be the ultimate justice of positive change through public awareness. And that positive change is happening now. That public awareness, the ultimate justice, is happening as more and more people wake up to embrace truth, to heal using the methods in PTSD, Time to Heal, to be able to fix this corrupted system. All the roots are just outlined right there, and what we can do about it in Access Denied for Reasons of National Security. This is our time to be empowered by knowledge. This is our time to be able to shine. This is our time to take back our capacity to unite in spirit around the globe and refuse to tolerate this dark, negative energy force meddling in our brilliant minds and lives anymore. It's a time of a spiritual evolution, and it's one that begins with free thought. I encourage each and every one of you to arm yourselves with that truth. Look further on my website. I've got many blogs posted there on how information applies to today and what we can do about it. And you can also contact me through my website for further information. It's an amazing time to be alive, an amazing time for us to unite and take back life the way that it's intended to be lived. When we remember who we are and why we're here, we align with the divine. We win, they lose. It's game over.
Love it. Wow. Wow, Cathy. I love the delivery. It's beautiful. And you walk us through the way to heal, the process out. That was my next question. But since you were talking, I said, okay, you already covered that once. That's perfect. And talking about indoctrination, my goodness, how we've been indoctrinated for so long.
Yes.
Everything around us, religion, media, all these things. And the resilience that you actually share, that our brain can still heal when we just take the pen and take the paper, get rid from the computer, because that is another form of mind control.
Mm-hmm.
That was beautiful. In fact, just get back into the simplicity of life and begin to write. It open. I didn't even know that you speak it, that when you begin to write with your hand, you open up another neurons in your brain. That's powerful.
It is, and it's something everyone can do, and it doesn't take money to have a pen and a paper. Or, they're everywhere, and we can just start writing, and we can vent anything. We can vent our grief. So many people have lost loved ones, and sometimes it helps to pick up that pen and paper and just write out love for that person, and realize that everything that we shared with them, every pearl of wisdom they gave us, stays with us. It's still within us. Love lives on. And when we realize that, we can write that out. We can write out all the things we wished we'd said. We can write out so many things like that to be able to deal with grief. I know, because I picked up that pen and paper and I wrote out so many poems and everything when I lost Mark. In 2017, Mark passed away in 2017, and I lost my best friend, my soulmate, and yet I found that the love is still here. Instead of letting my heart break in two, it swelled to double size, and I carry his love with me, and I choose to honor him every day, every moment, every step of the way, by living that strength that he reminded me is within. So we have so many ways to honor those that we have lost. We have so many ways to be able to deal with guilt when we realize how strong mind control is and the mind manipulation that has been imposed on us. Then we don't have to carry that guilt anymore. Then we get to live the love we are going forward. This is such an amazing time for freedom. I'm so happy to have survived to reach this point, to see people waking up, to see this spiritual evolution happening. It's one Mark and I both knew would happen, and I know that he must be thrilled too that it's finally happening. It's an amazing time to be alive.
Indeed, indeed. It's such an amazing time to be alive. People are waking up by the millions, if I could say so. Maybe we may not see them straight, but they will refuse everything that the mind control or the government is trying to impose on our human brain or human mind. And that is the revolution. That is the powerful revolution, that the human being, the way the divine created the human being, it says, I do not create you that somebody else will rule over you. or we rule upon, and we've been so much mind controlling and conditioned. We're ruling upon another human being, and that is the end. I love the way you survive and you express the healing process part and what you went through. And I know you have even more to share with us, but maybe it's going to be for another setting, because I would really love you to touch more on indoctrination, especially through the media. But the time today may not allow us to do that. When you come back the next time, you're going to try to really emphasize on that one. And if you will give us also the permission, we could actually put your book on our website, and then you give us a link where the people could just buy that book, and you will go straight to your account. So that's something we could do when we're off air. And yeah, we're going to highlight again your website, your social media handle. I know that you could be found also on Rumble. I don't know whether you have a Telegram account, but your website, people could find you there, and then on Rumble too, because you are in high demand on many podcasts, to many podcasters out there for voicing the truth. And this is a time that the truth should be heard and justice should be served to all those perpetrators. Really, we need to see that justice, because your fight was not in vain, Cathy. Beautiful. Thank you very much for not being silenced and for voicing it, and for being a whistleblower for over 35 years on mind controlling in the global scale. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your brilliance and this opportunity to be able to bring truth to light to many others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please stay back on where we go, when we wave and then we go off air. If you could stay back on the backstage, we could talk a little bit again. But yeah, it has been my pleasure and my privilege today. You all viewers who are going to tune in after we off live, in all our various platforms. We have over 9 platforms where we tune in when we live. I'm pretty sure that you could find it, that you could share this message on Twitter, on Rumble, on Telegram, on Instagram, on BitChute. We are on Reddit. We are on True Social. You could follow us, and you could please share this message with all your entourage, because people need to understand truly what mind control is. It is not only what you think that is only the media, but there's a lot, there's a panoply of that one out there. And the time has come for every human being on planet to live that free thought life, as Cathy affectionately say, free thought life. We need to live that free thought life. That's how we really know who we are and why we were put here for, and therefore we could manifest our purpose. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you again. And until I see you next time, please, bye-bye. Signing off.